Hello, and welcome to the Frictionless Experience, the podcast where we lay waste to digital friction. I'm Chuck Moxley.
And I'm Nick Palladino.
On today's episode, we're going to talk about how to drive frictionless customer journeys for all audiences, including business users. Joining us is an expert on this topic, Amit Singh. Amit has spent the last 20 years at Verizon and the last 4 years as the executive director of marketing, focusing on B2B, digital and assisted commerce and portals. Amit, welcome to the Frictionless Experience.
Thanks, Chuck. Look forward to this session today.
We're excited to have you with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your background at Verizon and what you focus on with your team?
Yeah, so I lead B2B digital in Verizon business today since 2019. And before then, I led B2C digital in wireless for 7 years. And then prior to that, for 10, 12 years, I built digital products for wireline. So I've had breadth of experience, wireline, wireless, B2B, B2C, mostly in customer facing directly.
Well, and your background, I recall, is similar to Nick in that you were at one point an engineer, at one point a product manager, and
yeah, it was a very deliberate choice. Early on, I was end-to-end full stack product lead, and that gave me the exposure throughout the cycle of product development. As means of education, I have bachelor's and master's in computer science. So obviously, engineering was my background. However, the product development really gave me the interest and experience of building journeys and experiences for customer and caring for it. And I love that. And here I am.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And from my experience, and I'm sure yours is similar, being able to experience both that engineering side and that product side allows you to understand the kind of the whys on both sides of it. So you can start communicating as a product manager back into your engineering team more effectively, or as an engineer to your product team more effectively. It's just a nice balance.
And when you say B2B, give us an idea when we're talking, because we think of, Verizon, we might think, a lot of us are like myself are Verizon customers, and we think of going into the store. In the B2B world, give us, what is that? Is that small business? Is that large business? What kind of interactions are they doing?
Yeah, so my team supports digital sales and service for all types of businesses, from very small one-person business to mid-market to enterprise, public sector, very large organization. Everybody uses the digital learn, buy, get, use, pay, support, account management that my team and I enable on through our Verizon digital portal.
That's interesting. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but there's got to be a lot of different journeys and a lot of different needs for so many different size audiences.
Yeah, that's where my mind first goes to.
Yeah, it definitely does. A lot of segments, a lot of needs. And yet what is interesting is that I would say that 70-80% of the digital platform is actually common. It's the 20%. So how you architect it is what matters. And it actually really is very useful because as you can imagine, it's many different segments and user groups. If it wasn't on a monolithic platform, implementing that many journeys and nurturing and investing in each one of them would not have been possible in a smaller segment.
Very interesting. And you have some background in sales. How do you think your background in sales also affects how you see that customer experience in the digital world?
Yeah. So I have for 12 years now been responsible for sales, almost earning 1/3 of the company's sales through digital. So it's a very large responsibility. And that we grew from really low single digit to 1/3. So in sales, the primary thing I would say, anybody in sales, they would know, you really have to earn your right. You're not entitled to even shopping, definitely not buying. So a lot of earning the right, that empathy and that perspective comes in from the sales experience. But then to leverage that towards service, and then to complete the picture of service to sales, that's what I would say that what I leverage most from sales experience.
I kind of like thinking about it from that earn your right mentality and thinking about building that digital experience. That's an interesting way to kind of carve this in is, you can drive traffic to your site all day long, but if you don't earn your right, then why are they even there in the first place? And that's about building that good experience. When we talk about those journeys, you said 80% of journeys are common, but what about those 20% of journeys? As you're kind of starting to do that, that's earning your right, is making sure that you're building these experiences for all those different B2B users that are coming into your platform.
So what is it? What is your objective then when it comes to achieving that frictionless customer experience in that journey?
Yeah, so my objectives are towards the customer, towards the company, as well as towards the employees. For the customer, the objective really is to, as we earn the right for them to come to our digital, making sure that we enable them to learn, buy, get, use, transact what they were there for. For the company, frictionless, though we say frictionless for the customer, it's really for everybody. Because if we have frictionless, then there is a higher likelihood of customers buying more, customers spending more, and customer needing less operational expense. So it's really good for a company, and it's very good for employees because if you do it once and do it right, the employees can be used towards building other journeys and nurturing other journeys and doing more work rather than just fixing and band-aiding issues.
So it's really the entire life cycle of that customer, from first learning about Verizon, looking at the plans as a prospect, then making the purchase, then managing the plan as they add employees, as they add new features, doing upsells. I mean, it's a long customer journey, I would imagine. They try to extend it over many years, really.
That's right.
So, and then when we talk about the customer journey, it actually starts before they arrive at your site, right? That it's not just the journey on your site, but where does that customer experience start and your goals as they relate to them?
Yeah, the experience with our company, our brand, starts from the point where the prospect or customer has the consideration. You gotta go right all the way at that time. For many cases, it starts with Google search, and in other cases, it could be ads, it could be other places, interaction. So it really starts wherever they have the first consideration of the category that we serve. From there, the entire LB Gubs, learn, buy, get, use, pay. Every moment is an experience moment, is a moment to reduce friction and create experiences that can be multiplicative as you grow further. And particularly, it's important in B2B. It's definitely, there is a bit difference, in what I've learned in B2C. It's more about your by reducing the friction, you will be able to get more users to transact much quicker because their patience and barrier is very, very low. They will drop company from consideration with a very little difference. In B2B, it's a bit different. Generally, the product and the needs are a bit more complex. The user is going to be a little bit more tolerant because they have a bit more mission critical or mission business needs related service, but then their journey is a lot more complex. So the need to reduce friction does not go away. The perspective and the why changes a bit.
I'm wondering because, I had marketing for Blue Triangle and our sales cycle is very long. And so nobody ever comes and lands and buys, right? We monitor and we look at the journeys and how often people come back and all that engagement. I would imagine there's some of that same stuff that there's probably multiple times they come to the website as they're researching and trying to decide if they're going to choose Verizon before they actually make that purchase? Or do you see in your customer journeys X%, they land, they buy, it's all in one visit?
Yeah, definitely not. The bigger the buy, the more longer the cycles are for any telecommunication mobile industry. It's device cost as well as for average year to year. 5-6 years in most cases. It's a many $1,000. So it's a longer buy. It's definitely multiple consideration, and it's also intertwined with the customer or prospect's journey. Somebody may have one need at one time, and the next time they're driving by a store may have a different need, or they might need consultative assistance. So cross-channel need, multi-touch journey stringing together is absolutely very, very crucial. And it is not just crucial from frictionless perspective, but businesses can double their sales if they knew how to harness the potential between the channels without any additional increase in demand generation spend. Because customer, exactly as you said, customers and prospects cross the channel, and generally larger companies have gaps in between. They do very well within one channel, but the moment you have to stitch across the channel, there is gaps.
And how do you all address it? How do you try to bridge those gaps between the channels?
It starts with commitment from leadership down on customer listening and data driven. That's the two things I would say in my organization. I personally, from early on, pretty much when I remember joining fresh out of computer science, UT Austin Masters, came to join my company, and 1 week out of the month we would spend in the call center. Literally spend work out of there, even if you had no other reason to interact with them. By just being there, there was so much osmosis happening, learning about the business and the customer. So firsthand customer, listening and observing, very important. Not secondhand, not somebody recording, not somebody creating a presentation of behaviors. And then second is data. You have to have a lot of data or different journey points, their interactions, and how does the customer journey translate into company metrics and economics and profit margin, their stays, their churn. Understanding this, it really is very important. And if you look at these two things, it makes up product. So a lot of companies talk about product, but at the core of product is really customer listening and data, and of course engineering, your product lifecycle and a go-to-market, etc. A lot of companies have figured those part. Where they lack is the data instrumentation, data-driven culture, and customer listening. And that is two things that we do a lot, and that has resulted into a lot of unique customer journey implementations. So having spent a lot of time in B2C, the natural tendency would have been to just copy paste B2C into B2B. While a whole, a big portion of it is meaningful, learning, shopping, getting, whether you are individual or business, you still get the same UPS and FedEx, etc. But there are unique journey use cases. In case of businesses, particularly, as you said, they hop around the channels and the sales cycle a lot. So how do you keep the sales intention strung together, making sure that there is some sort of assisted and digital integration all throughout? So that makes a lot of difference. So customer listening, data driven is the core of it, Chuck.
Yeah, so it's tying this all together, and from my experience, I did majority B2C. And so it's interesting when you say, it'd be really easy to just take that experience B2C and then just apply it to B2B. It really would be, but that's almost like, and what I started to notice when I was at Home Depot doing a lot of this, I would tap on B2B periodically and that experience and understand how that data was implying those journeys, just like you're talking about. And I always boiled it down to saying, hey, it's a science to do B2C. It's an art to do B2B, because you have to fundamentally change to what's effectively an outlier in a B2C business, because there's way less of it that's going to provide way more for you. And so as you're starting to look at that data, you have to really understand what it means for that customer experience, because it matters that much more. So when you talk about, again, earning the right and continuing those journeys and coming all together, that brings that art of the data. The art of the data is what kind of starts creating that indicator for you. So it's really interesting to see that Verizon fundamentally approaches it very similarly to what I experienced and was kind of alluding to, because I was never directly a B2B, I guess, analytics associate.
Well, and if we're going to take Verizon, I pay, I don't know, $250 a month for my lines, right? I'm sure I'm a drop in the bucket compared to many of your corporate customers. So the risk of them having a bad experience goes up exponentially, much like you're talking about, Nick, right?
Yep. Exactly. And that's exactly what I mean. Like, it's a small bit becomes a very large amount, and one bad experience could be the difference of someone deciding, hey, you know what, I'm going to go shop.
Amit, you were talking about the channels, and you are somewhat unique in that you have stores. You have hundreds of stores, and I guess you even have reseller stores, which are kind of a whole different factor. How has the brick and mortar experience changed in your time with Verizon, and how does that phygital, that was a coin term coined by a prior guest, both physical and digital experience overlap and connect with that customer's journey?
Yeah, and before I proceed, I must clarify that, see, every group, every individual, every leader have a bit more unique perspective. So, what I'm sharing is through a lot of just personal experience in the journey I have gone through. So not representing Verizon per se. I'm representing my own journey in this. So physical, again, I would actually give you an example that as I toured B2B companies, as I said, even now 10% of my time is blocked on a weekly basis for first-hand customer listening. And I would say another 10% or even more than that I spend on data review, on various, and that is really ingrained, through a lot of my mentors, that I saw them be successful, and then those who were not successful, I saw them not do it. So I learned that thing. So as I walked, shadowed, drove along businesses and saw how my B2B reps would be selling, I could see that there was a very clear need, for the journey that you mentioned, that the businesses have, admins or expense managers who buy on behalf of their employees. They make purchases, but they have big bills, and they feel the need for getting some consultative help. uh, I was able to stitch that into a need that, what if I let them use digital to create, a quote or a partial cart, and have that reviewed by their, account rep. Now you have a very interesting digital and a physical combined use case, and that's a great example of how you mix the digital and physical to create a journey that solves customers' problem. And most of the big businesses that you see are built based on the customer need. Amazon was built on the need that shoppers needed quick delivery. Nobody really wanted to go to mall for every buy, only if the delivery could be quick. So they pivoted on that, created digital and physical combined strategy. You shop online and get the stores, warehouses to deliver, and they had a winning formula. Similarly, this case I mentioned, and many like that, it really starts with customer listening firsthand and product design. Believe it or not, product design, customer listening, data driven, it's used a lot. I don't think that it's really harnessed to the potential that it has.
That's excellent point, and I love that example. Let me just make sure I'm understanding. So in this case, I'm the administrator at the business, and I've got I don't know, outfit 10 or 15 phones or plans. I go in, select all that, but now I can call my account manager. He or she can review it and make sure I set it up correctly. And they go, oh, you know what? You left off this, you reconfigure it. I love that. That's like the best of both worlds, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, as I said, nothing to really do with Verizon particularly, but any B2B, you will think that it'll be useful. And it starts with really empathetically listening and observing your segment and trying to come up with journeys that will harness both the channels and both the investments, digital and physical, to their best.
That's great. Can you think of an example in your past where you identified or your team uncovered some form of friction and were able to resolve it? How did you remove that friction? How did you improve that customer experience? You kind of gave an example there, but maybe something where it was breaking down, where it was a problem or something that was slowing down or causing things not to happen.
Yeah. So I particularly profess that, as we drive big transformation, there needs to be a continuous, sizable investment in making sure that the existing journeys are up to date and up to mark. And while the exact percentage split may be different by companies and their state, many things, things like site performance, reliability of the systems, frictions introduced during the journeys, measuring page bounce off can give you all those cues. So you have to be really listening to the data based on the journeys and a lot of business process as well. Example like shipping. I'm gonna skip the name, but one of the very big companies, wholesalers, every consumer shops, their stores is fantastic, but in today's day and age, if you ever use their online, it takes 3+ days, 5 days to just get the deliveries. Now, data will tell you that part. If they, looked at the data, like wherein did people select next day, do they really get next day, or it takes longer? The policies might be there that, oh, you have to order by noon to get the next day, etc. But do customers really care for that, or do they even understand that? Not really. In today's day, the consumer experience sets the bar that businesses and consumer alike in any business have to meet. So we use a lot of data in these sense to measure, whether it's, as I said, page load, digital reliability, shipping and delivery, end-to-end order time, etc., to make sure that we can meet the customer needs and expectation. And it's a continuous process. I would not say that we are at the destination. This is something that we have to continually do, because as we fix and upgrade one, the transformation initiatives keep bringing in new journeys and new experiences, and they would end up introducing some issues that we will have to continue. So it's a parallel track that we'll always have, big transformation and lots of little optimization running in parallel together serves the customer and the company.
What a great example of the influence of frictionless digital experiences. You just said so much. You didn't say a brand, but I guarantee our listeners know exactly who you're referring to. And that in-store experience is fantastic. That digital experience, not so. And it comes down to things like distribution and fulfillment. And the whole that digital journey is just so important against every single aspect of what it means to be able to create that frictionless experience. It's you said so much without saying it, and that was so eloquent.
Thank you.
We talked about that on a prior episode where we were talking about the customer doesn't distinguish. Oh, wait a minute. My responsibility is the digital part. The fact that you didn't get the product for 3 weeks, that's not me. It's all one brand. It's all one experience. And you either win, or are the heroes or the duds either way, right? You don't get to talk about your part of that transaction. What's an example of when you think about how do you make customers feel good? How can you have them have a good feeling about their digital experience? Are there things you can do to support that?
I believe in simple meeting basic expectation first. So things like accuracy is the first most important thing. So never have issues where you quote one amount and in next page, next step, it changes because maybe the discounts was not shown or some different considerations. So I would say accuracy is most important. Second is on the various eligibility rules and criterias, because then that creates a question of decision confidence, especially in any costlier purchase. If it's a very small purchase, then they may not have as much. But, given in B2B and in general, and, larger subscription-based paradigm, there's spent a lot. So, the accuracy and, these areas. Another is transparency. So I'll give a great example is Google Maps. I was on and stuck in the traffic. It rerouted, but the moment it reroutes, it says that you are still in the fastest route, though it wasn't the best thing. However, it gives a lot of confidence, and believe it or not, I think the traffic distribution has been fundamentally reshaped just because of the maps use. And this is a fantastic example of how you meet the expectation. So I would say those are the things, accuracy, transparency, helping with the decision, what makes a lot of difference in. And then use of technology, I should also add there that today, so much data is available. So use of technology, when somebody is considering a purchase, having reinforcing data, like who else has bought, how many people have bought those, am I looking at the right, I think that is the discoverability assistance that is really technology driven, that makes a lot of difference. So I give several examples. Those are the ways in which it helps.
As you were talking, I kept thinking of examples from, I booked a rental car through Hertz, and and they were offering cheapest option was electric cars. Well, I'm not a Tesla fan, but they offered the option of, instead of a Tesla, a different one. I can't remember what the brand was. I'm like, okay, and my wife was okay with that. And I chose it. And when I got to the final booking screen, it kept saying Tesla. So I kept going back and redoing it. And I finally ended up going with a completely different rental car company, because my wife said, do not get me a Tesla. I don't want a Tesla. She doesn't like the one pedal driving. So we ended up not even going through Hertz. We went through a different rental company because their screens were not giving me accurate information throughout. So
it's very prevalent, by the way. I must also say, I own a Tesla and I am a Tesla fan. So we have a point of difference here.
And I drive a non-Tesla electric car that I can do 2-pedal driving on, because we just don't like that one pedal thing.
Yeah. And, but I will say that issue that you mentioned, believe it or not, in today's day and time, there is a very large % of digital experiences that have those issues and errors. And because I have been so close to digital throughout, the issue is data instrumentation. Those companies do not know in their digital, which is by definition virtual world, where all and how many shoppers, customers are experiencing these issues. That they have so much data dumped at them from logs, etc., that they're not able to see what is the crucial information versus fluff. And and that is a very big, I have had that experience booking tickets, large tickets and travel, that I ended up not booking because it just kept giving errors, exactly what you said.
The last few times I've tried to book a flight, I'm not kidding. It took like 3 minutes for the order confirmation or the booking confirmation to come through. It would just sit there and spin and spin and spin. 3 minutes. Like, I stayed, so I guess it worked, but why? Like, how is that not an indicator? And it's something that I've experienced with the last 3 trips at least. And so it's just so wild to me to see that those kind of things. And you're right, you got this mound of data and it's there. I guarantee it's there, but they don't have the ability to extract that unit to turn it into something that's meaningful for their customers. And it's all about understanding how to organize that data into a actionable unit of work. Really, really cool example there.
Being successful in a virtual world of digital is a very different skill. It's not about just as we talked about collecting data. Also, how do you bubble up the right level of information across them, and a whole lot of different things has to be instrumented to really have a grasp on the business, on different moving parts, be able to prioritize first thing first, implement frictionless, strategies based on that, and drive the business forward. And then if you are able to, sky's the limit, because you can harness and reach customer, because the traditional barriers of the business are resolved in or irrelevant in digital. You can reach everyone instantly. There's no limit to demand. Demand was the biggest problem in assisted or physical world. Here, demand is unlimited. However, putting your arms around the business in this virtual world and then making that virtual world frictionless is a very different skill, and it requires technology know-how. And this is what we were talking in the beginning. Having technology understanding and having leading product marketing really allows that successful combination.
Yeah. In fact, you mentioned that you spend 10% of your time looking at data and analyzing data. What are the key indicators of bubble up? How do you kind of quantify or figure out the most important things to look at where you can identify this friction that's happening?
Fantastic. So 10% on data, 10% on customer listening every week, block, nothing else. And I literally block the calendar. It starts with the first thing first. In our group, and I really learned through one of my mentor on this thing, start the most important thing. Like, in case of, sales and service, ultimately the number of customers I acquire, and in case of service, the call mitigation that you do experience, as some form of OSAT or NPS, start with that and then double click on that. So like, if those are the top KPIs, what is the next set of enablers? What is the next type of sales? And you come down and then relentlessly being focused on the priority. And this is also an exercise that is a muscle that is developed over time. And I'm really proud. I would say that in last 5 years, it was a brand new team that I built in the product marketing, coming out of engineering, and then putting a thumbprint of being data driven and customer, centricity, living, in the example, by the example every day, and then that's example I gave you, that, that if we really start with that, like right now, as part of the next year's planning, we would go through the exact same exercise, and we keep doing it. And then before you know, it becomes the DNA for the group.
That's awesome. So we've talked about some examples of companies that don't get it right or haven't, have had a miss. What's an example of a company that you think delivers an amazing frictionless digital experience? Who have you observed out there that you would?
No, there are many, like example I gave you on Google Maps. I think they do a fantastic job. You are pretty fraction of second is all you have while driving to really pay attention to it. Amazon, highly discoverable and accurate. It's not the prettiest site. In fact, by most standard, their commerce is not pretty at all, but it is at scale discoverable and accurate. Verizon's own site in terms of reliability, it's a testament. Every single Apple pre-order day, I'm not sure if you followed that, every September, 3 a.m. It's not as big a event now, but for last, I would say 12, 13 years, 3 a.m. when everybody wants to pre-order, most of the competitor site and OEM, vendor sites crash. The only site that remains is up is Verizon and its app, and that requires reliability. So I would say reliability. Apple is very elegant, in my opinion. And actually, that is interesting. A lot of small companies have solved these very well because they do not have the barrier of the legacy. And so I have learned, several small companies where they actually had really good, even Omni experiences. I can't remember. There was college admission consulting firm where I was talked to, the sales rep, and immediately after we will hang up, an email would come to me with the recap of the things that we talked about, and it has linked to complete my order online. Should I have question, it basically links back to that person, and in the back end they had it completely stitched. So I would say like fantastic experiences.
That's awesome. So, Amit, what do people get wrong about digital experience or frictionless digital experience? What's a widely held belief about digital experience that you just fundamentally disagree with?
There is a lot of belief that to sell more, I must use human assisted channel, especially in big companies. And if you do the digital right and the journey right, you can sell more at per account level and you can sell more at overall level. You can serve better with lesser. There is a belief that, if I have a human interception, then I can negotiate, for the company, lesser, expense, etc. I'll give away less, and those are I completely disagree with. Digital is how you can scale at digital, how you can be consistent across all the journeys, but it does require understanding your different customer segments very well and implementing those in the digital journey, being able to see and tune and optimize continuously your virtual world. So that is, I would say, those are two that I have felt that in larger companies, particularly, there is the entire company's process, policies, infrastructure is geared towards human-centric operation and using digital as an aid. It can be reversed, and in today's world, that's what the most digital native companies have really proven, that you could be actually, digital centric and then use a human as the aid, reversing the belief.
That's an example of that legacy from the big companies that we've always done it that way. We've always had a call center. We've always had the human element. So besides listening to the frictionless experience, how do you keep up with industry and digital transformation?
One is that would be obvious for the listeners, following the customer. That is my first and primary way of learning. Is I actually continue to spend a lot of time. When in doubt, go sit with the customer, learn from them. all along when I was in engineering, I always co-located myself with the marketing and product team. Literally, even though they were like 40-minute longer drive from my home, my team didn't like me as much because I made everybody sit co-locate. But they really appreciate it. I have changed groups entirely, groups and company, 3 times in my career. Um, Even after I left the group, they continued that culture. So obviously they loved. So, being co-locating with the customer, that's how I would say. A second thing I would say is, some of the trade shows and like NRF and others have been very useful. And thirdly, really sitting and being on forums outside of the immediate group. Most of the people will gravitate towards their organization, their team. And I won't use the cliche of step out of comfort zone. I would rather say that, the peer organization, partner organization, being on their forums has been really very productive in learning them.
All right. So wrapping up, what are 2 or 3 final recommendations for listeners that they could apply in their own roles to drive more frictionless digital experiences?
Yeah. So first thing, empathetically listen to the customer. That should have been guessed by now. Second is being data driven. Instrument data at the time of writing requirements and designing product. It needs to be instrumented, or you will not have the data when you need it. And you'll be reacting to the needs. Leveraging technology. There is technology, out available. And in today's day, there is somebody having implemented whatever anybody is looking for. So you don't need to, by and large, invent anything, but you do have to open the eye and turn the rock to see what lies beneath the rock. Business model and unit economics. A lot of times people who are passionate about customer and innovation, they forget that at the end of the day, you are running a business. So, converting that into what is the business model, what is the potential, what is the unit economics, why it will be profitable and sustainable to do over a period of time. And then finally, to wrap it up, having a clear belief in customer experience as the means to earn the right to begin and be sustainable as the end is necessary.
That's awesome. Great advice. And thanks for a great conversation, Amit. Where can listeners find you? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
LinkedIn will be best, and I can share with you my LinkedIn, and they'll be the best way to connect with me.
We'll put a link. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say my lesson of this whole episode has been customer. That's it. That's my lesson. I'm taking that away.
I think I know what we're going to call this episode. Adam, if you're listening. All right. Well, this is awesome. And we'll definitely put a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. So thanks everybody for tuning into this episode of the Frictionless Experience. Remember to follow us on your favorite podcast player app so you can automatically receive notifications when we upload new episodes. And be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Let us know what you think. And hey, what topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes. We'd be happy to cover anything that's causing you friction. And of course, you can always find and connect with me and Nick on LinkedIn.